It's an aberration in behavior that fascinates me. Why do I act the way that I do? Why do I feel the way that I do?
With every episode of depression, your mortality and morbidity worsens.
I had all these thoughts going through my head, and they were just negative, and it was just overwhelming.
The prevalence of bipolar disease is about 1% in the community at any given time.
Took a CD case and broke it and started cutting my wrist.
They initially told me that I was demon possessed.
If somebody's had 2 or 3 episodes of major depression in their lifetime, it's very likely they'll have early signs of dementia.
I have a great deal of respect for anybody that can get a handle on it. But at the same time, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. And if I was in your situation where I'm medicated, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do, or it's leaving me feeling a certain way, you do get resentful, because it does get in your way from time to time. Just, things that other people take for granted, we can't.
Bipolar disorder has been a root cause of severe morbidity, mortality, and healthcare expenses over the last couple of decades. Psychiatry has come to a point where we've been able to kind of get a grasp of this illness process, and it is believed at this point that about the prevalence of bipolar disease is about 1% in the community at any given time, which means roughly about 3 million people are actively suffering from bipolar symptoms at this current moment.
I was 24, and I had a
And sexy.
and sexy, and I had a very bad breakdown in my car. I honestly just wanted to go to the gas station and then go to Kroger and get some cantaloupe. And I ended up, I remember the day.
Oh my God, okay.
And I felt nervous. I felt anxious in the house. I needed to get out. I felt very down. I just didn't know what was going on. I had all these thoughts going through my head, and they were just negative, and it was just overwhelming. Ended up at the gas station, and I literally sat there frozen in my car, and I started crying, and I took a CD case and broke it and started cutting my wrist. We need to get you some help. And I was like, I don't want to go. But I eventually just was like, look, I'll just go, because I knew I needed it.
So when we describe a patient who is bipolar, depending on the type of bipolar disease that they have, they can have predominantly major manic episodes, or what are called minor manic episodes called hypomania, interspersed with major depressive episodes. So you're looking at a patient who at one given point in time could be fully manic and have no symptoms of depression. At the next very cycle, the patient could be shifting down to a completely depressive state and have no manic symptoms.
I remember ringing out a customer and getting ready to give the customer the change. And I'm smiling. Everything's great out here. Inside, I'm like freaking out. Didn't know why. Couldn't, other than the stresses of this second horrible marriage that I was going through. But I remember saying, okay, let me give you your change. And I'm counting the change, and I'm freaking, and I'm, going nuts. And the cash register is here. The drawer is out there, of course, on the other side, and I just dropped. Drawer still open. I dropped under, let me get in the cubby. Just let me get in my little closet. I sat up under the drawer, and I was in tears. I do need to go find out what this crazy is. And I ended up going to the hospital, and I checked myself in, and I said, I have no clue what's happening. And they said, well, do you feel suicidal? And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to kill myself.
Right.
Yeah, same here.
I don't really want to kill myself.
Right.
I just really do want to die.
Yes.
I mean, I would love to do that one, boy. If I could just die, I'm dead.
Diagnosing bipolar disorder in the manic phase is usually very easy, relatively easier. The symptoms are very clearly well defined. By DSM-5, we need to have a sustained change in mood characterized by an expansive, elated, or irritable mood state, which is sustained for at least a period of 7 days, accompanied by a couple of criteria like increased self-esteem, decreased need for sleep, increased goal-directed activity, engaging in various numerous impaired social judgment, decreased and increased socialization. And these episodes can even last up to 4 days or even less. Sometimes when the criteria are not very well fulfilling, patients may not present with a full manic symptoms, but can present with what are described as hypomanic features. And these are episodes where the symptoms are not meeting full criteria, but they last for about 4 days, but are severe enough to impair the patient's psychosocial and occupational functioning.
What happened that brought you to the point that you had to get diagnosed?
Well, they initially told me that I was demon possessed.
Wow.
And so,
Who's they? Who's
well,
they?
the people at the church.
Oh, that was nice of them.
Wow.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, you know, and I was a member of the church. And so these were all people who I considered friends. And so you know, they commenced to doing a full-blown exorcism on me. Yes.
Wow.
And, you know, it was one of those things that after, you know, 3 hours of the full-blown exorcism, when they realized that they could not release me of the demon that was within, that they called they actually called, you know, 911. And so when they came out to get me, then they hauled me over to a psychiatric institution.
But Brett, I was diagnosed very close to that age. I was diagnosed at 27.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it had a problem previous to that. We had it in the family. I had my father's sister was diagnosed, well, they said manic depressive at that time. Same thing. So I had witnessed her behavior when she was not medicated and when she would go off, and I was doing the same thing.
Right.
I was doing stand-up comedy at that time, and my best comedy shows were when I would rant. I wouldn't think of a single thing. I would just walk up and go off.
Right.
And let me tell you something. Some of my best shows ever. They really were great. High energy because I was manic and didn't know it. I'm on a manic high and I'm up there and I'm ripping it apart.
going.
I'm getting hired to do gigs in Boston, in Connecticut, in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Florida because of my rants. I kept thinking to myself, that's not right though. You know, I'm not supposed. Nobody else does that I know. Like nobody else I knew, even the other comedians didn't do it. So I eventually brought myself to a doctor. Just made an appointment. Sat down in front of her, and she said, "You know, what is it that brings you here?" And I said, "I'm manic depressive." And she said, "Oh, really? And you know that?" I said, "Yes, I do." I explained about the family background, and I said, "This is what I'm doing." And I said, and she asked if I drank. I said, "No, I stopped a year ago because I know how bad it is for me. It was making me worse, and worse and worse and worse. I could drink a grown man under the table, no problem." And I realized that was contributing to the problems I was having. It was exacerbating everything. So that's when I just went dry. And a year later, I got diagnosed. And I was one of the unbelievably fortunate people that got handed a prescription for lithium, and it worked.
I didn't tell anybody.
Okay, Janice?
Well, you know, of course I had to tell my best friend who found me.
Well, yeah.
And I was in a relationship at the time, and it was so ironic. I was in the same gender loving relationship, and she didn't even show up. She didn't call. She was like, "You did this to yourself. You brought this on to yourself. I'm not going to be tied into any of your victim mentality. When you get yourself together, you let me know." Yeah, so that's what I was dealing with right there. And, you know, unfortunately felt additional shame and said, okay, I do need to get it together.
But I didn't really tell too many people because I still felt like, you know, I'm supposed to be this, and everybody knew me. That's the happy-go-lucky, you know, I work, I'm functional. I used to call myself a functional depressive. So, you know, I was
That's a new term. I like that.
Yes, it's a functional depressive. So I go to work, you know, I go to school, I live this wonderful life. I, you know, cook for people on Saturdays after church. They come over to my house. I've had company, and then, you know, of course, then behind closed doors, it's me and my emotions in my head. I'm just, you know, a mess. And even in those times, so I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want them to get this ruined image of me.
Treating bipolar disorder has always been a very difficult concept because we are looking at two phases of the mood. We're looking at a depressed phase, we're looking at a manic phase, And many a times, patients with bipolar disorder will present with what is called a mixed phase, where they have symptoms of depression interspersed with hypomanic or manic symptoms. And as the clinical data is being gathered, we're noticing that more and more patients are presenting with a mixed pattern. So when as psychiatrists we approach treating bipolar patients, we have to clearly delineate, number one, what type of diagnosis the patient has, and then approach them with a biopsychosocial approach, meaning that we're addressing the biological piece of it, obviously the psychological piece, which is the support psychotherapy, insight-oriented therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, group therapy, individual supportive therapy, and also addressing their social events that are triggering them to have these episodes. There is clear correlation that bipolar patients can easily get depressed or manic based on a life event.
And Brett, you're having more difficulty right now
Yes.
because, explain about your medication difficulty. She's having difficulty with medication right now.
Oh, right now they have me on a shot, and the shot is a 30-day shot because I'm actually dual diagnosis, and dual diagnosis is schizoaffective personality disorder and bipolar.
Wow.
And so what my therapist is trying to do is to find a middle ground. One of the things that I am dealing with right now is the side effects of that shot. And the thing about it is I have been on the shot for 6 months now. And you know, I hear you all talking about, you know, some of the, like, being overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed is actually a symptom for me. And so when that overwhelming feeling comes up over me, I know that I'm about to become manic. One of the things about the shot is my cognitive skills are not very good because, you know, I want to say more or I want to do more, but I can't do either because of the fact that the shot is stunting me.
What type of shot? What medicine is it?
It's called Invega Sustenna. And Invega Sustenna, it's...
That's what I'm thinking. In Vegas.
Sustainer.
Lovely, I like that.
Does bipolar babe?
Bipolar babes, yeah, I love it.
We like the name.
Bipolar babes.
They got the side
I love
effects,
the
but we
name.
love the name.
Right.
Well, the fact is, like I said, because it lasts for 30 whole days, that means that once you get that shot in your system, that's it. And you have to sit there with that shot until it wears off. I have what's called flashes of light. I don't know if you...
I've had that.
Yes.
I'm
Very
having that
weird.
now, but okay.
Yeah. Is it very weird?
No, she's talking about that.
No, you're right. It is very, very weird, very strange.
Do you find yourself looking like you'll see something, it looks like it went past you,
Yes.
and you do this?
Yeah.
You look
I
to
have
see if
that.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yep. I had that for a while because I had to up my dosage for a while because I was going manic. To bring it back down. And that was the most annoying and distracting part of getting medicated for that.
Right. And so mine right now are turning into what they call curtain lights. And so it's like you literally the lights start up here and it goes all the way down to the base of my eyeball. And so...
So which way are you going home? How does having bipolar disorder affect your career/employment?
And I've only been at this particular job for about 6 months, which for me, like this morning I've been on the job for 6 months. Working for someone else has always been, I quit. I'm just gonna quit right about now. You know, because either my feelings was hurt or I was depressed or I couldn't focus long enough to get it, and then I felt shamed because I didn't get it as fast as somebody else got it. And I'm also a media personality on my own radio show, so it's just like, yes, I get to finally say the things that I was so ashamed to say on the show.
I was a real estate agent and I had my own brokerage. in the midst of me being licensed, it's like I keep holding on to the fact that I will be able to go back to the person that I used to be.
Yeah.
I was like you, I owned my own business. I owned a different kind of business. I owned a repossession agency. I stole people's cars for a living that weren't paid for quite on time. We kind of have to work independently. We're better off doing something on our own and being creative and using our gifted minds
Yes.
towards our own good, something that we know we can accomplish and do good. I don't know about you, Jazz, because you were talking about this and you touched on it, Ramona. When we go get a real job,
Yeah, as they say.
we fail. How does the disorder affect your romantic relationships? She's been dying for
And
this.
go sexy go.
And it played over and over again when I started dating people. Like, oh my God, are they gonna like reject me for this? And when am I supposed to tell them about this? And when am I supposed to be like, hey, if I have a bad day, like this is why.
My experience was I was married for 5 years and got divorced. And when I got divorced, it was the worst thing I could have ever done. And I regret it every day of my life. But it is what it is.
Right.
And, I sit back and I look and say, all right, how can I move forward from this point on? And so I haven't figured out how to move forward from this point on yet.
Very hard because I get, oh, you're bipolar? I understand. I could live with that. No, they can't. A lot of people will say that they're okay with the illness, but they're not really okay.
Right. Exactly. That's why I don't say anything.
And it's very hard.
Right.
I'm
Not
normally
first.
very, very stable. I don't show a lot of outward signs of having any kind of disorder.
Me too.
So I can go 6 months with being perfect. And then one day,
It's just,
there
it is.
maybe 2 or 3 situations that pop up, and I get overwhelmed, and I go, people don't get that. They're like, but you were good for 6 months, right? And I'll probably be good for another 6 months. In between, this is what you get, and it's one day, or maybe it's 2 days, and that's it. People have a hard time with that, especially the more stable you get, the more difficult it is for a partner to understand when you're not stable.
Right.
It's like, but if you can do that for 6 months, why can't you do that
keep
forever?
doing it, yeah.
I'm not built that way. How do you say it? I'm not built that way?
And I am writing everything. I used to sing and I used to, do a little dip and dabble into recording. So I did a music video one time, and it was just it was the highlight of my life. And I did writing. I have tons of writing materials. Of course, like I said, with this book, like when I get that surge, that's when I do the book.
Well, your radio show is creativity as
My
well.
radio show is just a dream. That is the best thing that could have ever happened in life for me. So, not only am I able to create and be expressive, but I now get to see all of these creative people.
Next question. How do you feel about the way we're portrayed in the media?
As far as like on the news and in politics, because it makes us look like we're just these disturbed people that need to be registered, and everybody needs to check and see if you have bipolar on your driver's license.
Churchill, Leonardo da Vinci,
That's
Vincent
right,
van Gogh,
exactly.
Richard Dreyfuss, Catherine Beta Zeta Jones, as I call her.
Beta,
But that's like a handful of people.
Jackson,
The list,
yes.
the list
The list
is
is
amazing.
ridiculous.
Right.
And my thing is, I always want to say to people, okay, so you can accept the wonderful things that we do, you just can't accept us.
We're
Nope.
not all the same. The media makes a mistake for not representing the wide gamut of who we
Yes,
are.
exactly, yep.
And so, when you look at TV, you only see the really, really crazy, can't get it together person or the killer. Like truly authentic people, because when you're on TV and you're playing all of these roles,
Right.
you're not playing my role.
Oh, I like that.
And so if you can actually put on, interviews by people who are authentically bipolar, then you can have a place of authenticity.
That, and I would say the same thing as they, just take a moment to just sit down, shut up, walk in my shoes for a second,
Just a day.
and just listen and understand that I'm just about as sane or crazy as you are too.
Overall, how do you feel about being bipolar now? I mean, everybody's been diagnosed. It's been a little while. You went through it twice.
Yeah, I did.
But just in general, How does it sit with you?
Where it's like, I don't want to
want
tell
this.
anybody, and I don't want this, and oh my gosh, what the
Yeah.
heck, man? Like, I don't want to deal with this. And then there's those days where it's like, really? Like, I just want to tell the world, but I don't know, should I?
I am fantastically excited about being bipolar. Absolutely fantastically excited because now I know who I am.
Right now, I'm slightly resentful. And the resentfulness comes in because even with bipolar, I had some form of normalcy and I was highly functional. And now it's like I'm not.
Yeah.
Why do I act the way that I do? Why do I feel the way that I do? So, I have a great deal of respect for anybody that can get a handle on it. But at the same time, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want it. And if I was in your situation where I'm medicated, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do, or it's leaving me feeling a certain way, you do get resentful because it does get in your way
Yeah.
from time to time.
Yeah.
Just, things that other people take for granted, we can't.
Thank you so much. I am so glad, as I always am, every Tuesday to be talking to all of you. This is my time when I get to come and just do what I love to do most and enjoy what I love to do most, and that is what? To talk.
But the majority of us have what are called curable illness, treatable illnesses, which means that we modify our lives based on, example, asthma, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, bipolar disorder is one of them. So I think it would be very important to get yourself knowledgeable. There are numerous websites that you can go to. NIMH.org is one. NAMI is a great support network. DBSA, depression, bipolar support groups around the country are very helpful. And many times calling up a physician's office and saying, I want to just talk to him. Can I talk to him? And I'm sure there are physicians who will respond to your call.
More than that, I wish people really understood it or took the time to understand it so that we to deal with us better and we could deal with them better.